you are live.
It was a dark, cloudy morning, and all through the bush, not a creature seems to be stirring, except for the termites and some bushveld gerbils. And some lions, actually. You can hear them calling far off to the southeast of us. I'll leave Brent to update you on that. But a very good morning to you. My name is Jamie, and I have VM, the wildebeest, on camera with me this morning. Brent is out on Rusty with Brian, and we're going to head out in different directions and see what wonders we can find for you. And on this gloriously cool morning, 92 degrees centigrade, which is a chilly 67 degrees Fahrenheit, which for us is positively frigid at this point. We've got all kinds of exciting things coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And as we continue on, in theory, as we continue on, we're going to be looking for, I think, I'm going to go and see if Karula is still around Philemon's Cut Line, which is where Andrew saw her yesterday evening on the sunset safari. It was starting to pour with rain, and he had a brief visual of her. He thinks she had a kill, but he didn't stay too long to check. And we're going to head across in that direction. And while we do, don't forget, for new and for regular viewers, that we are also interactive. So not only live, but you can also send us through your questions and your comments. And you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarth.tv. It appears as though, no, that's it. Yeah, okay, if I hold my headlights on, they stay on. That's next to physically impossible, so we'll just cruise along. Luckily it's morning. It tends to get lighter as the day goes on. Just better make sure I don't miss any tracks. It'll be a bit tricky to do. Nope. A plan shall have to be made at some point. Poor old Wendy came back from the auto doctor and hasn't quite been the same ever since her convalescence. I've taken a long route around to where Karula was seen, so that it starts to get hopefully a little bit lighter, and we'll be able to spot tracks in theory. But with all of the rain that we've had, not that I'm complaining of course, with all of the rain that we've had, the soil is incredibly compact, and tracking something like a leopard on wet soil is always tricky. You'll also find that this morning, and probably for the next 24 hours, depending on the rain, we're going to show a slight reluctance to go off-road in certain places. And in fact, we won't go off-road in certain places because it will do distinct damage to the environment. Because there's been so much rain, and because there is so little grass cover at the moment, we don't want to disturb and compact the topsoils any more than they have already been. And the tremendous amount of rain that we received in one go means that the top layers of soil are already washing away into the roads. And that, of course, is one of the reasons behind, in fact, the reason behind these lovely little speed bumps in the road. They're not actually speed bumps. They're known as bolsters, and they come associated with drains that have been, so ditches that have been dug into either side. And it's specifically for weather like the weather that we've experienced over the last 24 hours. What is that? It is an elephant. Hello, elephant. I think I know you. In the darkness, Yellies don't really like light on them. So I'm not going to illuminate him too much. I'll just bounce the spotlight down there, see if that helps at all. Funnily enough, I could see him better with my eyes in the dark than I could with the spotlight. As soon as I shone the spotlight up, it illuminated the bushes in front of him. And hid him completely from view. Off he goes, and I think it is a he. I can only see one. I wonder if he's the gentleman that broke our pool deck. He looks similar in size, quite a young elephant, not too large. and he's been paying a regular visit to Inga's house, where Brent and myself and Eugene live. And his latest trick has been to step on the wooden deck next to the swimming pool. And unfortunately, it was not built in a strange construction flaw. It was not built to tolerate 6 tons of weight on a small elephant foot. Luckily, though, with all of the rain we've been experiencing, I don't think he's going to be returning to our shores, or to Inga's fence at least. We did try shutting the gate, he just stepped on the fence. I could, of course, be unfairly tarnishing this young elephant's reputation. The only time I've ever seen the elephant responsible was very much in the dark, and I was attempting to get out of our driveway at the time. Bye-bye, boy. Maybe we'll come see you when it's a little bit lighter. I'm going to make my way to where Karula was last seen. In the meantime, I'm fairly certain that Brent would love an opportunity to say good morning to you, so why don't you hop onto the back of his vehicle?
Good morning and welcome on this slightly chilly sunrise safari. I'm with Brian Joubert. Sometimes we're known as the Killer Bees. Although we have not been on the vehicle together for quite some time, we're hoping we can find you something exciting this morning. We're heading east towards the rising sun. I did hear lions calling with great gusto earlier this morning. I'm hoping that they are still within Djuma. If not, they are very close to the boundary. So we're just slowly making our way up towards some high ground to see if we can find anything. Now, isn't this incredible? We're on a live African safari. Now, a few short years ago, who would have thought it possible that we could have all of you at home joining us on Djuma Private Game Reserve in search of big cats. Very exciting stuff. And not only the big cats, all the little nunus and chojos and whatnots. For those of you who don't know what a nunu or a chojo is, little South African colloquialisms for bugs. And after the rain, we should have a few of those about. Also, another one of my favorite smaller creatures that I've been keeping an eye out for, and that's frogs. Well, a very warm welcome from a chilly Djuma to Ben, who would like to know if we have lightning bugs or fireflies here in Africa. We do, but with this drought we're experiencing, I actually have not seen one this year. Brian, have you seen any?
No.
So traditionally, normally when there's been a lot of water around little creek beds like the Mawati, you will get quite a lot of lightning bugs or fireflies, but this year I haven't seen one. So maybe after this downpour we've had, we might see one or two. We'll have to keep checking. We do have, if we look carefully in the light in front of us here, I'm also going to just stop and listen for a second, see if those lions decide to let us know where they are. I don't know if you guys can pick up, there we go, some flying ants. So those are termite alates. Now, alates are the future queens and drones of the termite world, and they're released en masse after rain generally, and they provide a very important food source for lots of animals: frogs, snakes, particularly birds, even the big predatory birds. There we go, look at that. Isn't that pretty with the rising sun light behind? Nice job, Brian. It's not easy to try to track a little bug through the sky, but so exciting. We're just going to stop here and listen for a couple of seconds. And what we're listening for is that. Maybe I can call them to us. Definitely multiple lions calling earlier this morning. Sounded like possibly a pride. And there we go, flying ants and the sunrise. And we can hear one of the first birds waking up this morning, that very loud and that is an arrow-marked babbler, quite aptly named. So, can't hear anything, so we're going to keep moving. And while we do that, a very good morning to PK in Iowa City. And PK is wondering, do we have many frogs and toad species? We do, PK. And we don't have any salamanders or newts in Africa, as far as I'm aware, anywhere. So that seems to be very much a northern hemisphere thing. But frogs and toads, we've probably got about 30 odd different species that occur in Djuma, and hopefully on the sunset safari we'll be able to hear one of my favorites. Don't normally call too much in the early morning, normally as it gets dark. It's called a banded rubber frog, and a wonderful call. It goes, and it's probably one of my favorite sounds in the African bush. Especially after a nice bout of rain. Oh, this is actually a very interesting question from Lance, and he'd like to know, is there a reason why termites are so ungainly in their flight? Now, they are very ungainly. You can almost pluck them out of the air, but Lance, I would say it's probably because they don't travel too far, and the ones we are seeing now have just opened their wings, so they're a little bit more ungainly. As their wings dry a bit, they can become a little bit more feisty and more flighty, but they generally are released en masse, so having expert flying skills is not necessary, because the way termites work is they release so many at a time that if even 60% of them are eaten by predators, or even 80%, 90%, there's a predator. Brian just spotted now, did it land? Yeah. And that, there we go. How's that? There we go. And that is munching on the flying ants or termites. Oh, it looks like a lesser spotted eagle. You can see the white in the wing there. One of the diagnostics. I haven't seen too many of them this year. And the big birds of prey absolutely adore termites. We might find we might be seeing quite a few more birds of prey after that rain, and the big flush of insects and other creatures that come out after the rain. Sorry, but back to that. So the fact that they're released en masse in their thousands means that they don't need to be the best flyers. Because even if 90% get eaten, there's always the 10% that'll survive. So they have that as their survival strategy. There's just so many of them that nature knows that most of them are going to provide a very important food source to all the other animals out there, and only that minuscule amount will survive. Otherwise, I'm afraid we probably wouldn't be able to drive. There'd be so many termite mounds in the way. Good morning, Donna Wan, who's joining us on YouTube. Donna would like to know, do the termite alletes come out of their pupas and sort of hang around underground till the rain, or is the rain a trigger that makes them come out of their pupas? The rain will be a trigger, so it might not be while it's raining. As you can see now, it could be within sort of 48 hours of it raining that will release them. Even sometimes, just a very humid environment can also cause them to explode out of the ground. We have another bird of prey. Oh no, he's flying off, unfortunately, off into the distance. Looks like a second, yep. That one is, looks, oh, maybe not, yeah, juvenile battalier by the looks of things. Or we will see definitely now. Oh no, I am wrong. It's actually another lesser spotted eagle. Oh, great camera work, Brian. Look at him having a good clean. He's probably had his head in the dirt, munching on alates, and now he's just trying to clean a bit of that muddy soil off his face. And as you can see, just below him, two fork-tailed drongos who are probably not too impressed to have a large predatory bird in their presence. And you can just see the termites floating through the shot every now and then. Oh, hornbill there, also feeding on the termites. There we go. So also nice, it gives us a chance to listen now that we're up on the high eastern crests of Djuma. Let's see if we can pick up any audio from those lions. Oh, you see the drongos. They too might just be a little bit distracted by the fact that there's so much food around and they're ignoring their normal. There goes two termites attacking of the birds. Sorry guys, just got to be on the game drive radio for a second. Good morning, Andrew. No updates. We had another audio to the south and east early on this morning. I'm following up on that. Jamie is heading towards the last position of Karula.
Thanks so much, Brent. Morning. You don't mind me coming in the area, have a look at Karula. Was in a duck yesterday. Then yeah, I'm also going to help around if there's Ngalas around.
Copy, thanks Andrew. We look forward to seeing you. Look at that. Brian tracking an alate through the sky. And that is no easy feat. Now we just need some form of bird to just pounce on it. Well, next time. Now, who's the predator? There we go. Now that is a little termite alate there. So incredibly rich in proteins and eaten by many people all over Africa. As a kid, I was attracted to light. With the Zulus I grew up with, you make a big fire and you just put a pot of water on it. And then they're attracted to the light and they land in the water and they're actually trapped. Oh, where are you going? They're actually trapped by the water. Their wings sort of get really stuck on the water and then you just pluck them off and eat them. They're quite yummy. Other people like to fry them in a little bit of butter. They have a very buttery, almost peanut buttery taste to them, even when they are raw. Speaking of winged creatures, Siberia is asking me to try and find some lacewing dragonflies. Well, unfortunately, Siberia, a lacewing is not a dragonfly. It is actually the adult of an antlion, which is a little creature who makes those spiral holes to catch different ground-dwelling insects, and the lacewing is the adult. There's or damselflies. So we're gonna struggle a little bit with damsels out here. There's been no permanent water around, and damsels need water to finish their life cycle, like dragonflies. So there might be some around, but they're going to be quite difficult. But a much better chance of finding a lacewing than a damsel or a dragon. Ah, imagine that. Imagine if we find a damsel in distress with a dragon. That'd be quite sick. Sorry, sidetracked by tracks. It's incredibly difficult to see tracks nicely. On the radio again. Go ahead.
Can I have a route update? Anywhere you'd like me to check?
Good morning, James. There was line audio. It sounded like south and to the east. I'm on Cheetah Cut line at the moment. They also sound like it could be some audio around Buffalo's Hook. Jamie's following up on the last position of Karula around Philemon's Dip. I'm not sure what the update is. I heard she was going for a stroll. But wherever you would like. But Djuma is out on a tracking team, seeing if he can give us a hand in locating some animals. There's much debate whether we're going to get more rain today. I feel we might, but a little bit later. So even though it's clearing up here in the east, our rain normally comes from the west, and that's looking a little bit more dark and ominous. I don't think it's quite going to be like the rain we had yesterday morning. Morning, Rhonda in Georgia. She'd like to know how many inches we got. I'm afraid, Rhonda, me and metric conversion to imperial is not a good combination. I can tell you how many millimeters we got. We got 63 millimeters, which I think is around 2 and a bit inches. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. There we go. It is about 2 inches of rain. I only know that because I think we were trying to work it out yesterday, and it's sort of somehow that figure stuck in my brain.
No, the kill itself was right on the edge, visible from the road. Lying, it was kind of under
just listening to the radio.
Like a log in the ground.
Okay. No line tracks so far. And we're going to move all the way down Cheetah Cut line, right down to the northeastern corner, and we'll listen again for a little bit from there. A very warm welcome to Temba, who's also joining us via YouTube. Temba would like to know, with the extra rain and water, will it attract more animals onto Djuma? Temba, actually the opposite. So while we had only those 2 water sources on Djuma, those would have attracted a lot more animals into this area. Now, with the rain and water being spread out throughout the reserve, the animals will spread again. So the opposite is actually true. When it rains a lot and you get lots of rain around, the animals actually spread out. It is a good thing. It puts less pressure on those specific areas, but it is one of those things. So that's why generally your game viewing is always, well, not to say better, but more concentrated during dry seasons and droughts. So even though we've had 68 odd millimeters of rain, it is by no means the end of the drought, unless we get a lot more rain in March, because we've still only had about half of our average rainfall for this time of the year. Normally the grass would be knee to waist height at the moment. As you can see, it's minuscule But this little bit of green flush will be great for all the animals. Fatten them up a little bit before a very hard dry season. Now, while we continue to peruse the eastern boundary, let's go have a look what Janie's up to.
As Brent checks the east, I'm checking the southern side of Philemon's cut line. We're just going to do a brief off-road to where Karula's kill was. You can see the tracks moving through the area, the vehicle tracks, so she was obviously in this position somewhere. Now originally, I went walking to the north of where we are because I was fooled by other vehicle tracks. But I'm pretty certain this is where she was. I spoke to Lex on the Game Drive channel, and he said it was visible from the road on the southern side. I abandoned my walk because I could hear our elephant making his way slowly towards us. So I stopped at that point. He said that the kill was under a dead tree. Let's just have a look around carefully from where we are. My suspicion is that it is probably gone. Given Karula's current appetite, it might have been under this fallen marula. Any sign of anything? No, not quite. Checking all of the trees at the same time to make sure I haven't seen her hoist it. If she is feeding little ones, which she is, then she's going to be one hungry lady. And I've seen Karula devour a steenbok or a deka in less than half an hour when she wants to and when she's hungry. So it could still be, that could be the case. She might have finished it off and moved off, particularly if she wanted to go back to her cubs. If they are still denning where we knew that they were denning on Gowrie Main, let's just do a loop around here and double check that. Checking up in the marula trees. Generally when leopards hoist their kills, so when they take them up into a tree out of the reach of hyenas, they put them in nice large thornless trees, which makes sense because you don't really want to have to be dodging thorns. Like the one in. Now, in the next few months, she's going to start taking her little ones with her when she has kills, but at the moment I think they're probably still a little bit too young. She might be stashing them somewhere close, but being Karula and being the experienced mom that she is, probably won't risk bringing them to the site or the exact site of a kill where they run the risk or where a kill might attract the attention of hyenas. Let's just do one more check in case I missed her. It's so easy in this light, and leopards are so very good at being camouflaged that it is a possibility. I don't think so. I think she's moved off. In that case, I'm going to meander our way past Treehouse Dam. The thing about the rain is that she doesn't really have to walk far for water. There'll be groundwater absolutely everywhere. Let's go and investigate. We'll make our way to Treehouse and along there. If her cubs are still to the south or on the southern boundary, that's the route that she's going to take. I'm not going to go and check out the den site. I'm just going to follow the route that she might have taken along the way. See if we can't catch her walking back towards them. Karula, you're hiding under bushes somewhere. There's a very good question that's come through from Musical in Colorado Springs. And Musical was wondering, because she's heard us refer to bodies of water as pans, was wondering what is the difference then between a pan and a pond? And it is a really good question. We generally don't refer to anything out here as a pond. I think a pond is a more sort of, well, actually, it's not something that we use at all in the wilds of South Africa. Whereas a pan is generally natural, but not always, but it's quite a small body of water, as opposed to a dam, which is a naturally made, a man-made structure and much larger. So treehouse dam with a big dam wall is the dam, whereas pans usually constructed, let's go this way I think, usually constructed from little puddles or places where the water collects, and then something like a warthog will go and have a bit of a rub around, and then something like a buffalo will go and have a little bit of a wallow, and gradually they get bigger and bigger and bigger and form these lovely natural pan, what we refer to as pans, normally much smaller than a dam.
Jamie, apparently you did go down.
I'm just sorry, I just heard my name on the Game Drive channel.
I don't know if you want to check it. I'm sure she probably did get the right place. Okay, copy that. What are your plans? Where are you going to go?
Okay, I'll let them finish their conversation before responding.
Get straight up to that other impala and just see.
So a pan is a bit smaller than a dam, and it is often natural, but you will hear us refer to the Djuma pan, which is pumped, as a pan, and that's just because it's much smaller in size and naturally constructed out of a very thick clayey mud substance on the top of rocks or a rocky basin to make sure that that water doesn't seep away into the ground. And you'll usually find pans situated, natural pans, around seep lines, because the water has to come from somewhere, and it generally flows through underneath the top layer of soil and collects there. I don't know if Brent has probably gone past Chele Pan on Twin Dams. He might even have showed you that big body of water that's collected overnight. It is incredible how fast these natural pans, here we go, here's a nice natural pan. There you go, here's an intermediate section. It's not quite a pan, and it's more of a wallow, but it is going to become a pan at some point. And that's what I mean when I said that Karula doesn't really have to walk terribly far in order to find nice water. You could always come and have a drink around these little spots here. So it collects as a puddle and then gets gradually deeper as animals wallow in it. It's one of those ways in which the animals have an impact on the environment around them, essentially creating, in the rainy season at least, natural water stores for themselves. Karula was fortunate enough to catch a kill last night. And the kahulas have also been moving through the area. We heard them calling all the way on the other side. They were on Simbabili yesterday. But every time we see the general game species after a cloudy morning like that, we know, you can see how incredibly nervous they are. And that's because they're robbed of their senses. It's dark, it's wet, the wind is blowing. They can't smell anything, they can't hear anything. So that answers Brazos's question, which is yes. Predators, big cats, will hunt in the heavy rain. They don't necessarily go and sit and shiver under a bush. They will stride through it and take advantage of it while it lasts. It's perfect hunting conditions for them. And what's a little bit of rain to come between you and food? Not something that they want to miss the opportunity for. Now, those robbed senses of the general game species make it a lot easier for the predators. Most of, I would say, quite a few of the kills that I've seen happen, physically seen with my own eyes from start to finish, have happened in half dusky light in the rain. That being said, the sun is on its way out. I can see rays of light touching the trees, and now it's going to get interesting. Hello, sun. Don't get too hot. The clouds are going to start burning away. I think, however, this rain system is still moving through. There's always the chance that more rain is on its way. But now, as Brent said, he mentioned all of the frogs and insects. We're going to see lots of insects popping out. The birds are all going to be happy once again, reveling in the water and the greenness and the increase in insects. And of course, you'll notice us going very slowly through every puddle in the road, just to make sure that the terrapins can move out of our way. I think somebody was calling me. Okay, boy. Very skittish zebra. As I said, all of the general game species a little bit nervous.
Looks like Karula here crossing south, east of Loyalty, into Little Gary.
Good time. At least we were heading in the right direction.
Thanks, Andrew.
That was the plan we had. But she's just gone over into Little Gary, and she's got her cubs. She's got her cubs around a drainage line on Gowrie Main itself, which is an interesting choice on a main road, but probably a very deliberate one. Almost constant vehicle traffic up and down there. But there we go, at least we know where she is and that we didn't miss her hiding in the bush somewhere. Speaking about Karula's cubs, Mimi, who is 15, is a little bit concerned that there might be a risk for Karula's cubs being run over by vehicles going off-road. Mimi, don't worry. It is a restricted sighting, and which means that people, even if they bump into them, can spend a little bit of time with them. They can't call other vehicles in, and then they immediately have to move off away from them. Nobody here is going to push going off-road, and even if they were off-roading, let's say that they didn't know the cubs were there. Everybody in the area knows that they're around that position, so everybody's going to be extra specially careful. But even if somebody didn't know, the likelihood of those cubs coming out of their hiding place and being in a risky position without their mother around is highly, highly unlikely. I cannot think of one example in the entire history of what I've heard or what I've experienced in the bush where a leopard cub has been run over by a vehicle. And particularly in the Sabi Sands, where the standard of guiding is exceptionally high and rigorously enforced, it's not something we need to worry about. And they're not going to go wandering across, even if vehicles from external to the Sabi Sands, something like a truck, for example, would come through, they're not likely to pop out and lounge in the middle of the road. Now, never fear, I'm not at all concerned about their risks of being run over. There we go, another male zebra. Different, I think, to the one we just saw, but also not all that keen to be seen on camera. I said that we have nothing to concern ourselves in terms of the positioning that Karula has chosen in terms of her den. And that's partly said because Karula is an exceptionally successful mother in terms of raising her cubs. Marjorie was wondering how many births do we have on record for Karula and how many of those have survived to adulthood. And the answer is, let me go through this in my head. Regular viewers, some of our older viewers, you will be able to correct me if I'm wrong. First was Shadow and Tundi, both of whom have survived to adulthood. Second was, is it Shimbambalan that was next? That's where I get a little bit shady, is the birth of the litter after Shadow and Tundi. And there was Mishu and Induna, Quarantine and Kunuma. Wait, lost track. Shadow, Tundi, Shimbambalan, Mishu and Induna, Quarantine, Kunuma. Then there were the 2 cubs that were killed, so that's 9 births, plus the 2 that she has at the moment. But they have, so the 2 cubs that, or the 1 cub that was killed, I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2. And in fact, I don't think it was ever fully established in that sighting. It was a little bit chaotic. I think that was incredibly sad to witness. But in terms of, I did say Induna and Mishu. I did count them. So she's actually been hugely successful, Marjorie. In terms of a female leopard's job of raising her cubs, it is a very, very difficult job that she has. We've spoken before about it and how high the mortality rate actually is. I'm just listening to Game Drive channel update. It is the mortality rate for leopard cubs sits somewhere around 70%. So as an average, over half of them die before their first year. The fact that she has managed to raise so many successful litters is testament to her skill and her, I think I can term it this way, her canniness as a mother. Just correct me if I'm wrong, one of our regular viewers who's watching at the moment, Shimbambalan, there's one other. She has a daughter. Because Shimbambalan's a male. You see, it gets tricky for me where they're leopards that I have never seen before. Shavinzi. Here we go. That's something coming through. Thank you very much. I think I've got them all now. Either way, if we compare her to her poor daughter Shadow, and I'm not saying that Shadow is a bad mother, she's just been hugely unlucky in her time, and she has essentially not managed to raise 1 cub past a year old, except for Sindile. And of course, Sindile, with that incredibly unfortunate incident where he managed to catch a stray or a feral dog that had come in from a neighboring township. And it turned out that dog was tested and tested positive for rabies. Now Sindile, luckily it was seen and luckily he was caught before it had a chance to infect him, so they were able to give him medication and able to vaccinate him. There's also a lot of studies being done that show that leopards might actually have some level of immunity to certain strains of rabies, which is very interesting. Oh, Shadow has cubs, by the way. This is wonderful news. I told you that I thought she did, but that I wanted to confirm. I have confirmed, and she does have cubs. At the moment, they're still very, very young, so we won't get to see them for a little while, but we'll all be keeping fingers crossed on her behalf. Amazing. Mom and daughter had cubs basically within the space of a week or 2 of each other. Now, this is lovely news. With all of the rain and with all of the access to plentiful prey, the prospects of survival are maybe better than they might be on a normal year. Now, perhaps the drought has at least benefited certain areas of the population out here. Here's one of the last woodlands kingfishers. A lot of them have been moving off. What's happened? Why is everything so upset? Squirrels are furious. Franklin are furious. What's going on here? Hold on. Let's just go back. The answer is, oh no, that's a roller. I thought there was a little bird of prey flying overhead. Nope, it's not that, but something's upset these squirrels terribly. There's a little duiker in there that I can see. It's just dashed away from over there, but then stopped. Let's go and explore here. That squirrel's very angry. Is there a bird of prey that I haven't spotted? Or is it a snake? It could well be a snake coming out after the rain as the weather starts to heat up. But it's got the francolins upset as well. Just for a moment to figure out where that's coming from. You can hear that chugga, 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 chugga.
There should be that tree over there. There should be that palm tree over there at the back.
Can you see something there?
There's lots of activity.
Pardon?
Lots of activity.
Lots of activity there. Squirrel very unhappy. Franklin's very unhappy. Let's just go around the corner. I don't want to drive off road here unless I absolutely know that there's something here. The drongos are also alarm calling. Let's go around to the other side of the drainage line and just see if we can't figure it out. There's a couple of things it could be. It could be a snake coming out after the cold, and in fact, my guess would be that is what it is. It could be a leopard. There's a distinctive possibility that that is the case. Or it could be a bird of prey. Now, I'm looking carefully up in the trees to see. Upset everything around here. Whatever it happens to be. We're going to go through a dip. Just stay with me. Alright, squirrel, what have you spotted? What is here? Everybody keep your eyes peeled if we can't figure out what's got these guys so upset. Checking down into the drainage line. The leopards love this drainage line that runs from Treehouse Dam. Drongos are unhappy.
Right here.
Pardon?
There's a tree right here.
Okay, let's go forward a little bit and investigate. Forgive me if I'm not hearing your questions at the moment. We just have a slight radio issue. Maybe the weather's playing games with us. The angry birds. Drongo is calling. Squirrel is still shouting. Hornbills are now cross. I wish I could see that squirrel. I wish I could see where it's looking. The francolins have gone quiet again, but the squirrel has not. The squirrel is still furiously shouting at us. Now, drongos, if it were a bird of prey that we're upsetting them, so the francolins are shouting as well, which means that whatever the threat is, it's a threat to them as well. Now, if it were a bird of prey, the fork-tailed drongos would almost inevitably be mobbing it. They are very gutsy little birds, and they're not afraid of tackling a bird much, much larger than them. So I think we can pretty much cross that off our list of possibilities. Squirrel's gone quiet now. don't hear. I'm just sitting listening. I'm trying to work out where it is, whatever's upsetting them. Squirrel's still calling off that side. Let's go back and just check the dam wall quickly. We'll go along to that side. Checking deep in the drainage line. So leopards love to use drainage lines as basically little mini highways. They enjoy it because they're protected, it's dense, they can use their camouflage to its best use and move fairly undetected, except of course for the sharp eyes of the squirrel, if in fact it is a leopard that they're alarm calling at. Dacre, the reason I felt like it was while I search for whatever these animals are alarm calling, I found a buffalo herd to show you.
Females. So we've come across a nice big herd of buffalo. Sorry guys, I'm busy doing virtual reality at the moment as well, so you have to excuse if I repeat myself. There we go. Buffalo all moving up towards the crest to the northwest of us. There's still some on the left as well, the odd cow. There we go. It looks like they're going to move away from the drainage system. And there you go, there's going to be a very happy buffalo, an old cow coming towards us now. And you can see how her hips are sticking out. So this little bit of rain and green flush might make her life last a little bit longer. Hello, old lady. Amazing how quickly these animals are able to pick up condition. Oh, and we've got others grazing right to the right of us as well. We are going to get engulfed in this buffalo herd. Little boy over here. There we go. We can see a young male, he's still got hair on his boss. It's amazing, we're just going to sit quietly and listen to these buffalo as they move around us. You can hear their footsteps. Buffalo argument there. Another old female coming towards us here, Brian. But she's looking in a bit better condition than the other one. And she's lifting her nose at us. Hello, old lady. It looks like she's got a bit of a scar on her rump. Looks like it's healed though. Oh, she just spotted a little duiker, ran past her. Little antelope. Morning, Lex. Morning, everyone.
How's it?
Are you getting yourself?
Ish. The dragging chick around.
She walked as well.
And
nothing. No. And then I heard Andrew just found her crossing. I'd say those lines are somewhere just below Cheetah Cut line, right in the corner. So Torchwood side, somewhere around there, maybe Second Rock.
I think that could be in Torchwood.
Yeah, or the males, yeah, they were calling this morning.
Okay.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks.
Enjoy.
Guys.
Okay, well, let's swing around. Most of the buffalo have got past us now. Hello, buffaloes.
Morning, citizens. If you ever see anyone out on the road,
Okay, well, let's get closer to these buffalo here. And the majority of the herd is headed up towards the crest there, where there's going to be probably some nice grass going up seep lines. And we're not going to drive off-road after them after the rain, especially not coming from the base of the crest up. We might affect some of the seep lines. Oh, look at this female. Yum, yum, yum. So buffaloes are bulk grazers, so they're not as worried about what they eat as something like a wildebeest. And they do eat certain leaves and of trees as well, but generally their preference is grass. Oh, look at that wound on her back. And that looks like maybe a fungal infection, but the oxpeckers have been keeping it open. So there's little birds that eat the ticks off lots of different animals out here. If they find an open wound, they will keep it open to feed off the blood. Little vampire birds. There we go, you can see a buffalo quite close to that virtual reality rig there. So we're going to let the buffalo herd move along, and we're going to do the same. So you're just going to have to excuse me for a second while we do a little bit of a clap. I'm just going to move away from the buffalo, not to give them a fright. And so we can switch off the virtual reality. Okay. So here we go. Am I good, Brian?
That's good.
That's good. Anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for bearing with us while we do that. But now back to your undivided attention. A nice herd of buffalo, about 150, 200. And as I said, we're not going to go careering off-road, especially after all this rain. There's going to be those wonderful natural seep lines that I know a lot of you have heard me talk about a lot. How the movement of water from the crests into the creek beds. And if you drive through them and cause deep ruts, you actually stop the natural flow of water under the ground, so we don't want to do that at all. There are places we will off-road without abandon, but especially here at the bottom of a crest, we don't want to affect any of that natural flow of water. It's the lifeblood to a lot of grass species, and in being the lifeblood to a lot of grass species, it immediately becomes the lifeblood to almost all your grazing species, especially now that we're going into a very dry time. We're driving along actually a fire break here at the moment, and Lael in Washington is wondering who is responsible for the road maintenance and design. If it's individual landowners, where do they get their ideas from? Well, Lael, you have certain roads like the boundary roads and the cut lines like this, which is a fire break, where you can see it's been cleared of trees, and this is to stop a runaway fire, which I don't think is going to be a problem this year because there's no grass to burn. But most other roads will generally follow old animal paths, elephant paths, and that's why we often have animals on the roads, or will follow drainage systems, and it is up to each individual landowner, and they will all have a team. Most of the roads here in the Sabi Sands have been here for many, many years, so they were put in probably 20, 30 years ago, a lot of the roads. and also they will follow sort of short grass areas where you're likely to see a lot of your grazing animals, run along the edge of creek systems where you're likely to find leopard, and as I said, utilizing old elephant and hippo paths as well. Sounds like all the Franklins woke up at once. So what we're going to do is we're going to start heading towards the western sectors of Djuma. We've checked the east quite extensively, and maybe we'll get some luck with something in that area. So a very grey morning to Donna in Rhode Island. I thought we might get some light through, but it's disappeared. So, but Donna's wondering, that wound we just saw on that buffalo cow, would it attract the lions? It's very unlikely to, that specific, just that little wound. What's going to attract the lions is the sound of the whole herd. So it's unlikely they're going to smell that little bit of blood, and especially since it's not actually pouring out, it's just sort of sitting there. But they will definitely be attracted to the sound of a buffalo herd, all that lowing, and all those sort of noises. That's what's going to attract the buffalo. No luck with those male lions in the east, so fingers crossed the Nkuhumas have come back from the west. So we're going to make our way slowly towards there, seeing what we can see. And the wonderful thing about being out here is you never actually know what we might find. Morning, James, Richard. It seems like you, myself, and Brian are on the exact same page. So just before we came across those buffalo, we were on our way to Sydney's dam to see how much that's filled in the rain. So, James, you're on the same page as us, and that's exactly where we're heading at the moment. In Rhinelander is wondering why we haven't seen elephants digging in riverbeds this year. Is it because of the dry conditions? Most definitely, William. So that water table has gone down below a point where the elephant feels the reward of digging there is worthwhile, or the energy expended. So they have been accessing the pumped water holes, but after a big rain like that, the water table should rise, and we might, if we're lucky, see some elephants digging in the riverbeds in the next couple of weeks.
Which way are you going to go from there? I'm still undecided. I was going to just wait. I was going to go towards Sydney Dam and then maybe take long pole heading eastward and see what
what have we got here? No? Okay. Just a hippo wandering down the road, and the roads are very hard at the moment to see tracks, so I'd love to show you one. I'll wait till I can maybe find a clear one where the hippo stood in the mud. enough as just got a comment in from Deborah, the armchair traveller, wanting to see some terrapins in all these puddles. I just saw some terrapin tracks crossing the road, obviously in search of one of said puddles. But we will keep a lookout for you, Deborah, for terrapins in the puddles. Getting a bit chilly now. It's almost like the temperature's actually dropped since when we first started the sunrise safari. Now look at that, Brian. You got it there. So from the rain, actually getting into a crevice in this rock here, it actually caused a piece of the rock to fall off. Isn't that incredible? So there's attrition in nature at work. And there's a little piece that's obviously come out from in between the two rocks. But you can see how this is all very clear and clean and sort of orangey compared to the dark top side that would have been exposed to nature, where the inside hasn't. No, a bit of lichen and stuff growing on the inside, but not too much. There's the main culprits, I think, to causing that fissure in the rock. So we've got a couple of little tree species that have actually caused, more than likely with their root systems pushing through into the ground, a little knob thorn there, and what looks to be a little comifera or corkwood there. It's probably the corkwood that's pushing those large roots for a very small tree that has caused that rock to crack open. And you can, if you have a look there, Brian, you can actually see some of the roots that have been ripped from the parting of the rock. Very, very interesting. There you go, you can see the roots sit nicely. So obviously those are only the roots we can see. There you can see a bigger root on the little corkwood to the left. Fascinating stuff. So everywhere we look, there's water at the moment. That is wonderful. And let's have a look if we can see a terrapin in here. I'm just going to be on the radio with James. Standing by.
And what's your position?
Buffalo's Hook cut line.
Okay, never mind, thanks.
James, I think that audio from this morning was to the east of Cheetah Cut Line, and they head towards the western sectors now.
Copy, I'm not late, but I just had audio to the south. Sounds like one group quite far south, one group just south.
There we go, update from James on those lions. As I said, it sounded like they were out of our traverse area. Unfortunately, they were. So, unfortunately, it sounds like the males, the Birmingham boys, are causing havoc to the south and to the east. So, Sand Blaster on YouTube would like to know if there are any interesting rocks on Djuma or Arathusa, like diamonds. Well, I think if there were diamonds, there'd be a little bit more people around here trying to mine them. So there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no precious stones in this area. We have, well, it depends, they're all interesting rocks, in my opinion, but so what we saw there was actually a little bit of dolerite, but we got a lot of granite, dolerite, rhyolite are probably our three, and in certain parts to the south, gabbro, which is a type of basalt. So those are the main types of rocks we get around here, and with a lot of quartz. So the quartz is quite often associated with the granite. But we don't have any big sort of rocky outcrops and stuff. We do have some of that sort of crumbly rhyolite like we just saw around some of the water holes. I'm sorry, creek beds. And that was actually at the head of a creek where we saw that broken rock now. Now, with a large amount of rain in a short time, it does cause certain critters to have to move house. And here we go. There's some red ants doing just that. And you can see, once you behind in there, and we can see them there. We have an open spot. Now they're all going one way. So obviously their old nest got flooded, and they're heading to higher ground. They actually carry all their eggs along with them. These particular ones you don't want to get too embroiled with. They will bite, and they will bite quite painfully. So you'll notice some of them have bigger heads. Those are the soldiers, and even though they're not tiny, they do pack quite a punch. So as they move, you can see it's happening there a bit more. They're trying to build a canopy over the tunnel to have themselves less exposed from potential predators. Where the ground's very hard, they're unable to build such tunnels, but just their walking, come back a tiny bit, just their walking creates that dip in the ground. So thousands and thousands of little feet up and down.
So breeding out of elephants. Boundary.
Okay, so we're going to keep heading towards Sydney's waterhole. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Found some very skittish warthogs that have just crossed Gowrie Main. Now, VM and myself, just to quickly update you on all of those alarm calls, because I'm sure you're wondering what the fuss was all about. We're fairly certain we discovered the cause, and you won't believe it if I tell you that it was a pearl-spotted owlet that was causing that ruckus and the alarm calls from the squirrel. Well, pearl-spotted owlet, for those of you who don't know, is one of the smallest owl species that we have out here. It's roughly the size of my hand, and yet everything was absolutely terrified of it. And we saw it, I called it out. It came shooting over my head. By calling it out, I mean I imitated its call. That was what was upsetting everything. They were all two warthog females covered in mud, but not very relaxed. The one was looking at us and giving the odd grunt every now and again. They have this wonderful, when they're not quite sure what to make of you, they have this wonderful posture where they lift their heads up and snort at you, as if to say, I don't like this, I'm not happy about this, I'm very disgruntled with this. There's one still visible, so let's maybe just have a look at it before she disappears into the bush. She is going to go soon. Those 2 warts on the top of her head, what tells me that she's a female. Plus the obvious way is fairly obvious in warthog as well, if you get a nice back end view like this. And up until fairly recently, this used to be the extent of our warthog sightings. They used to see us and immediately disappear into the bush. It seems as though the drought has relaxed them to some extent, and they're feeling a little bit better about people's presence. We've had some really nice sightings with females and their youngsters. I've come along to Gowrie Main because while we were walking in the drainage line to check for what was causing all of the alarm calls, we heard lions calling. I know that James has heard them. He's out on tracking team. He also heard them. Unfortunately, they're somewhere, I suspect, to the south of us. But basically what I'm doing is I'm slowly cruising along our southern boundary, just in the hope that they might decide to pop right out. On a cool morning like this morning, they might decide to go for a walkabout. And I'm hoping that that might be the case and that they might emerge suddenly from the bush and decide to join us. A nice slow drive along our southern boundary. The Karula crossed just up ahead of me where the Mulwati drainage line crosses into Little Gowrie. So she might also be in the vicinity. We can keep an eye out for her. And I'm more keen to see if the lions actually decide to come back in this direction. I also really want to know, because yesterday afternoon we were looking desperately for a male that was reported to have crossed in from Arathusa, and we just couldn't find him. Granted, it started to get very rainy and very dark very quickly, but we just didn't manage to catch up with him. Apparently he was moving straight through a line through Tella and through Djuma. I'm very interested to see if all 5 of the Birmingham boys are back together once again, or if they still remain as segregated as they were. And we shall slowly trundle our way down here. Now, what was interesting about that pearl-spotted owlet sighting that we had briefly, I was convinced that there was a leopard hiding in the drainage line, and it turned out to be the smallest, or one of the smallest owl species that we have, is the fact that the drongos hadn't mobbed it. And I think it's because the squirrel had spotted it, but the drongos hadn't. So they were alarm calling in response to the squirrel, but not actually physically, they hadn't physically found or seen the threat just yet. And so they were calling, but not acting upon it. It's amazing that such a tiny bird could spark such an outcry, because it's essentially for most of the animals that were fussed, that little owlet is of no threat. I don't even think a pearl-spotted owlet would go after a squirrel. I think a squirrel would be too big for it. Owls don't really have the ability to care, especially change my drainage line. Before our signal disappears, I'm going to say farewell for now and send you across to Brent.
There you go. James is wondering how much water in Sydney's waterhole. Well, that much water. So the reason it didn't fill up as prolifically as some of the other waterholes, hello giraffe, is because it's got 2 little creek systems that flow into it, but they're both very short. With quite a few giraffe there. What are you looking at, giraffe? Maybe just making sure the coast is clear before coming down. Now, giraffe are expert spotters of predators. And if you see a giraffe staring intently into a bush, it can often mean that there could be a lion or a leopard there. 1, 2, 3 that we can see. Not to mean there couldn't be some more around. Oh, the little one at the back still looking towards the side. They could also just be looking at another giraffe. And they are looking very intently in that direction. So I think I'm just going to go a skosh further down the road and see what it is they might be staring at. Are we in luck? Could it be one of the Africa's big cats? Or even better, could it be an African wild dog? More than likely another giraffe or even an impala, but one must be positive and hopeful. And they're staring here. I can't see anything. And I agree with you, Linda. In Wisconsin, it is definitely time for wild dogs to make another appearance. I don't want binoculars. There's a rock and a lapwing. You see anything, Brian? Mm-mm. A giraffe is sending us off on a wild goose chase. No, can't spot anything. It's possible they saw something small moving. Steering intently in the opposite direction, but having a nice feed on what looks to be a little copse of Acacia exuvialis, or the flaky thorn. So, welcome to Safari Live, Groove-tastical. Groove-tastical would like to know, are giraffes ever aggressive towards humans? Not at all, normally. The only time that they might be is during capture. And game capture of giraffe is quite a process. And that is only done, obviously, when moving them between reserves, which doesn't happen too often in our part of the world. But no, not aggressive towards humans. They can be quite aggressive towards lions, and a kick from those long legs is enough to actually kill a lion sometimes. It is connected in the right spot. Oh, she's found a little puddle to drink at. Unfortunately, from where we are, I think this is the best view. I think maybe a little bit back. Oh. Maybe a bit forward. There. There you go. Now, as she leans down to drink, you can imagine it's quite a risky business for a giraffe. Number one, eyes are down, can't see any potential predators. Number two, what would happen for the blood rush to her head? Would she not pass out? Fortunately for giraffe and evolution, or evolution's looked after them, they have a set or 7 sets of valves in their neck to stop the blood rushing to their forehead, to their head and brain, and causing them to pass out. Amazing system. They've got an absolutely massive heart to be able to pump blood around that massive body. Their heart weighs about 11 kilograms. Well over 20 pounds, just their heart. And you can see the little oxpeckers darting around her neck. And they're about to disappear out of sight. And head into the bush in Buffelshoek Hook. The young one still following up, so we've got an adult female in front, a sub-adult in the middle, and a younger one at the back. Young one probably sitting at about 6 months old. Middle one, over a year, probably closer to 2. You can see that tail swishing away, keeping all the pesky flies at bay. Well, we'll leave the giraffe to their break fast. There we go, as they move off.